What if I told you that the very foundations of our modern world weren't actually built by well-adjusted people sitting in pristine laboratories, but by deeply troubled minds? I mean, think about it. Was genius really driven by a cute little falling apple, or was it fueled by intense, isolated anger? We all love our history neat and tidy, but the reality, it's way more mysterious. Right now, preserved over in the Fitzwilliam Museum in England, are the childhood writings of Isaac Newton. And let me tell you, they are not filled with childish wonder. They actually reveal a quiet, fiercely isolated kid wrestling with some incredibly intense, dark, and aggressive thoughts. He literally preferred to be entirely alone. But how on earth did that total isolation become the exact fuel needed to ignite a scientific revolution? Well, welcome to this special NSSA publication explainer. Today, we're diving into a seriously cinematic story. We're going to uncover how the absolute most monumental discoveries in science, we're talking gravity, quantum mechanics, black holes, were actually forged in the fires of intense personal adversity. So forget the boring textbook reading for a minute. We're going to look at the real, raw human struggles behind the equations. Part 1. The Dark Side of Genius. So our journey kicks off back in the year 1666, and it was a terrifying time. A massive, deadly plague was sweeping right across England, forcing universities to just completely shut their doors. So a young student named Isaac Newton had to flee Trinity College, which was basically the center of his whole intellectual world, retreating to his uncle's super quiet rural home for 18 long months. Newton was thrust right back into that complete, total solitude he had known as a kid. He was left entirely alone, with nothing but his extraordinary, wildly powerful, and, yes, sometimes troubled mind. Seriously, forget that cartoonish myth of the falling apple giving him some instant eureka moment. The reality was actually far darker. The true discovery of gravity was this grueling, years-long descent into absolute obsessive isolation. Newton was secretly running these intense thought experiments, poring over ancient texts looking for hidden codes, and basically withdrawing completely from society just to unlock the secrets of the universe. Picture this. In his utter solitude, he imagined a massive cannon sitting right on top of a towering mountain. He figured out that if you fired a cannonball fast enough, the curve of its fall would perfectly match the curve of the Earth. It wouldn't hit the ground at all. It would just fall forever in a continuous loop, an orbit. That right there was the true spark of universal gravitation. Not a piece of fruit, but a mind pushing the absolute boundaries of imagination while totally cut off from the rest of the world. Yet, crazy enough, this terrifyingly grand theory, it remained completely hidden from the world. Newton was just way too secretive to share it. In fact, it wasn't until the spectacular arrival of the Great Comet of 1680, which vanished behind the sun and then seemingly magically reappeared, that Newton finally got his ultimate celestial proof. He realized the sun's immense gravity had literally whipped that comet right around itself, and that was the final push he needed to publish his universal law of gravitation. So, Newton conquered the stars from an isolated garden. But as we move to our next incredible story, I want you to consider this. How does a trapped mind completely reshape reality while sitting behind a quiet desk in a totally mundane, dead-end job? Part 2. Isolation and the Miracle. It's wild to think about now, but despite his undeniable brilliance, a young Albert Einstein actually faced severe academic rejection. I mean, the guy couldn't even score a basic teaching gig at a university. Relegated to a super low-level job as a reviewer at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern, Einstein decided to use his abundant free time to run his own intense thought experiments. Working entirely outside the traditional academic establishment, he sparked what's known as his miracle year in 1905, just churning out papers that literally broke the universe wide open. Just in this rapid-fire sequence of pure brilliance, he proved that microscopic atoms actually exist through his work on Brownian motion. He discovered that light functions as discrete particles, not just waves. He established that the speed of light is the universe's ultimate unbreakable speed limit. And of course, the big one, he revealed that a tiny amount of mass can convert into a colossal amount of energy with E equals mc squared. But get this, he wasn't even done. A decade later, he completely overthrows Isaac Newton's traditional model. Einstein proved with his general theory of relativity that gravity isn't just some invisible pull. It's the actual physical bending and warping of the very fabric of space and time by massive objects. Think of it like a heavy bowling ball sitting in the middle of a trampoline. Now, Einstein's radical work on light particles didn't just come out of nowhere, though. It was actually built straight upon the reluctant discovery of another genius. Which brings us to a really fascinating question. What exactly happens when you break the rules of science completely by mistake? Part 3. The Reluctant Quantum Revolution. Enter Max Planck. Planck was this highly disciplined, incredibly conservative thinker who firmly believed the universe operated on the comforting, precise, predictable rules of classical physics. He definitely wasn't out looking to start a revolution. But he was investigating this massive roadblock in science at the time, the baffling behavior of radiation emitted by heated objects, known as the blackbody radiation problem. And what he found was that the existing laws of classical physics just completely failed to explain reality. The math simply did not work out, no matter what he did. So to fix the math and make his equations actually match the physical experiments, Planck extremely reluctantly proposed that energy exists in discrete packets rather than as a smooth, continuous flow. He suggested that energy is delivered in tiny, separate, indivisible chunks that he called quanta. Honestly, he thought it was just a mathematical trick. But in doing so, he had accidentally given birth to the mind-bending, wholly unpredictable world of quantum physics. He absolutely hated the implications of it, but, well, the truth of the universe didn't really care how he felt. So, while Planck and Einstein were pushing the physical boundaries of the entire universe, it makes you wonder what happens when arguably the greatest mind of a generation is trapped inside a rapidly failing body. Part 4. Defying the Impossible. At just 21 years old, standing right on the absolute edge of a brilliant academic career at Cambridge, Stephen Hawking began to lose his balance. Shortly after that, he received a devastating diagnosis, ALS, a paralyzing motor neuron disease. Doctors told him he only had a few years left to live. Understandably, he was plunged into this overwhelming despair, and it looked like his incredible mind was just going to be lost to history. But then, a profound shift happened. Knowing his clock was ticking, he realized that even a short life could hold immense value if he used it fully. So he shifted his absolute, piercing focus to unlocking the most extreme, violent, and mysterious corners of deep space before his time ran out. And what he discovered? It changed cosmology forever. He shockingly unified the two fields we literally just talked about, Einstein's general relativity and Planck's quantum mechanics. He proved, through what is now famously known as Hawking radiation, that black holes aren't these permanent, inescapable traps. Because of weird quantum effects happening right at their edges, they actually leak radiation. They slowly bleed out and evaporate over cosmic time. Just mind-blowing stuff. Confined completely to a wheelchair, eventually communicating only through a computerized voice system, his physical body was paralyzed. But his mind? His mind soared more freely than anyone else's on Earth. He wrote A Brief History of Time, bringing the most impossibly complex secrets of the cosmos to millions of everyday readers, and in the process, forever changed the public's relationship with science. Part 5. The Unending Scientific Quest. Stephen Hawking's passing in 2018 definitely marked the end of a legendary era. But as we've seen throughout this whole explainer, the pursuit of truth doesn't just stop when a great mind passes. Science is like this massive living relay race, and the baton is always being passed forward. Today, brilliant modern educators are the ones carrying that torch. You've got people like Professor Walter Lewin, who believes physics absolutely must be verified through real-world dynamic visualization, literally turning his classrooms into these spectacular laboratories. And mathematicians like Gilbert Strang, who completely revolutionized open education. By sharing his lectures globally through MIT OpenCourseWare, he proved that world-changing knowledge isn't locked away in elite institutions anymore. It's open to absolutely anyone with an internet connection. And that beautifully brings us to the core message of our story today. Science isn't a closed chapter. It's an ongoing story written every single day by curious minds across the world. These legendary breakthroughs we've covered, from gravity to relativity to quantum mechanics, they weren't achieved by untouchable perfect gods. No, they were made by deeply flawed humans who took their isolation, their brutal rejection, and their physical suffering and weaponized it to completely change the world. Which leaves us with one final provocative question for you to take away today. The past teaches us exactly where we came from, sure, but what mysteries will your curiosity uncover next? The future of human discovery isn't written yet. It's just sitting there, waiting for the next bold thinker to look at an unsolvable problem, challenge the impossible, and reshape reality. So stay curious, keep questioning the universe around you, and seriously, never underestimate the power of your own mind.